It is now my great honor to introduce our convocation speaker, our Provost and Dean of the Faculty, Dr. Sandra Greer. Provost Greer joined Mills in 2008 after a career of 30 years at the University of Maryland, College Park. A physical chemist, she has a strong research record in the nature of polymer solutions and phase transitions, and has taught at all levels of the chemistry curriculum. At Mills, she has been a strong advocate for academic excellence. She has managed the hiring of 11 new tenure-track faculty members, 2 deans, and the director of the Art Museum. Of the new tenure-track faculty members, 27% are persons of color, maintaining Mills' commitment to a diverse faculty. Provost Greer has supported the faculty in the evolution of the Mills curriculum, and we have seen the development of a queer studies program and a religious studies minor, as well as a renewal of the Department of Languages and Literatures under her leadership. She has worked with the deans to extend curricular offerings into the summer, the evenings, and weekends. She has fostered the use of more technology to improve efficiencies, including online course evaluations, electronic thesis and dissertation submission, and automated graduate admissions. She worked with the faculty and other offices to achieve the 2011 WASC accreditation for a 10-year period. We announced earlier in the year that Provost Greer will be stepping down as Provost and Dean of the Faculty on June 30, 2013. We are so delighted that she will continue at Mills to assume teaching responsibilities in the Department of Chemistry. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Provost Greer.
Thank you very much, President DeCoudreaux, for your kind words, and I am very honored to be speaking here with you today. The President does make it sound as if I may know some things, but what I want to talk about today is what I do not know. The title of my address is Education for Humility. Mills is a liberal arts college. In higher education, there is a long conversation about what is a liberal arts education and what are the outcomes of a liberal arts education. The very recent interest in the nature of liberal education arises in defense against a tide of more instrumental kinds of education, paths that have specific career goals in mind. The French philosopher Michel de Montaigne wrote that the first aim of education is to furnish the back room of the mind, meaning that a liberal education gives us a broad background knowledge that furnishes our minds and supports us in all our endeavors. After this first aim, then a liberal education is also intended to result in the ability to communicate effectively in speaking and writing, and to provide both the capacity and the inclination to think analytically and logically. A liberal education should then, quite obviously, be a perfect preparation for the more applied paths, such as law or medicine or business. But there is another outcome of a liberal education. A crucial result of a liberal education is an awareness of what and how much we do not know. And this awareness of the scope of what we do not know leads to a state of humility for a liberally educated person. It is our humility in the face of our vast ignorance and the value of that humility that I want to think with you about today. When we think about what we do not know, there are first the questions which nobody anywhere knows the answers to, about which all of humanity is ignorant. And then there are those areas for each of us of our own personal, individual ignorance, the things about which we ourselves know nothing, even after we have a college degree or 2 or even 3. First, let us contemplate the questions to which no one knows the answers, or at least not the whole answers, and probably never will know the answers, or for which there may not even be an answer, or maybe not any one answer. Our philosophers, bless their hearts, keep us alerted to many of these great questions. What is right and what is wrong? What is justice? What is beauty? How do we know that we know? What is knowledge? There are such great unanswered questions in every academic area. We could ask any faculty member here at Mills to name the great unanswered questions of her or his discipline, and we would hear questions such as, in economics, how do we establish stable economic systems? In government, what is the best form of government? In public policy, how do we stop wars from happening? In psychology, what is the connection between the mind and the body? In education, how should we teach and how do we learn? In business, how do we balance profit and social responsibility? And lastly, the great question of literature, what is love? In my own field of science, we would hear questions such as, what is life? What is death? Where did the universe come from? Where is the universe going? What are these particles we talk about? Atoms, Higgs bosons? Are they just figments of our limited imaginations? When I was an undergraduate at Furman University, I was so enthralled by my philosophy courses that I almost changed my major from chemistry to philosophy. But I thought, at the age of 19, that the questions in philosophy are questions that can never be answered, whereas the questions in chemistry will have nice, neat, firm answers. Oh, how wrong I was. Even in science, we will never reach the end of our questioning. There are, in fact, two reasons why we cannot find answers in science. First, science operates and can only operate by inductive reasoning. That is to say, we look at a lot of evidence, and from that evidence, we come to a generalization based on that evidence. Inductive reasoning, then, is inherently limited and flawed because we can always have missed a crucial piece of evidence. We thought that the sun moved around the earth until Nicholas Copernicus and others found evidence to the contrary. We thought that diseases occurred spontaneously until Anton van Leeuwenhoek made a microscope and observed microorganisms, and other people then connected those organisms to diseases. Inductive reasoning can and does fail us. The second limit to our answers, and not just in science, but in all areas of knowledge, is the cultural and technological context of the times. What you explore depends first on the questions that you think to ask, and then on your available technology, and that technology then depends on what else you already know. For example, you have to have a microscope to see those germs, and so you have to understand the optics of making a microscope and the process for grinding lenses, and then you have to see the connection between the germs and the diseases. The context and culture frame the very mental models that we make to understand the world. For example, the way that we think about the human brain and mind has changed as technology has changed. When the best technology was a pump, the brain was seen as a set of pumps. When electrical switches came into use, then the brain was seen as a collection of switches. And now that we have computers, we see the brain as a computer. The answers to our questions are first bound by the limits of inductive reasoning and then shaped and constrained by the existing knowledge base in which we operate. We do make progress on these questions. We do add slowly and sometimes painfully to what we know, but when we think we have an answer, it can change later. All that we think we know is tentative and fragmentary. We have to be humble in the face of those limitations. Now let me turn from the ignorance of the whole human race to our own individual ignorance. Each of us does know some things. We each have a college major, or soon will have, a specialty, and we know something about that. And we do have a general education and some knowledge of everything else to furnish our minds, but oh, how much we do not know. Let me just use as an example the sad state of my own ignorance. I do know something about chemistry, but, well, maybe just physical chemistry, since organic chemistry has moved on since I studied in 1963. Even in physical chemistry, my thermodynamics is strong. I'll be teaching that next semester. But quantum mechanics, not so much. And even in thermodynamics, I have not paid any attention to the literature since I became provost in 2008. So next year, I will have some remedying to do. And oh, despair, I have forgotten so many things that once I knew. Have you not, my faculty colleagues, gone back and read an article that you yourself wrote some years ago and been astonished at how brilliant you were then? Outside of chemistry, my ignorance abounds. My biology is out of date. I speak only a little French and German, and then with an abominable Southern American accent. I have no technical understanding of music. I cannot play any instrument. I could go on and on about my own ignorance. Moreover, I've had to give up on ever mastering some realms of knowledge and information. We are all deluged now with TMI, too much information. There is so much to know, and we only have finite lives. For example, how much more information do I need about the current presidential election, since I already know for whom I will vote? Or do I really need to know what Kate Middleton wore yesterday, even though that one is hard to resist? We have to filter out the information noise and choose the information we need and leave the information we can live without. The realization of how much there is to know and how to live with our own ignorance is a daunting task. My partner Ruth likes to tell a story she heard in graduate school. Imagine the whole universe of knowledge around us, and then imagine within that universe a small sphere of what we know. Now, as that sphere, that bubble of knowledge gets bigger, the area that intersects with the unknown also gets bigger. Let remind us of our math that the area of the surface of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. So, where r is the radius of the sphere. So, if the radius of the sphere, the amount of our knowledge doubles, then the interaction with what we do not know changes by a factor 4, and if it triples, we are 9 times as aware of our ignorance. It is mind-boggling. So here we are. The more we know, the more we must confront how much we do not know, and the more we are humbled by the ignorance of all of us together and of each of us individually. But this resulting state of humility actually is a desirable state. It is a desirable state because that state of mind makes us open to asking more questions and finding more answers. It is that awareness of the height and breadth of what we do not know that directs us to the very best questions and to the best path to new knowledge. T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." Humility is what keeps us ceaselessly exploring and coming back to where we started again and again with new perspectives and vibrant new questions, knowing that place as if it were the first time. Humility is what keeps us intellectually vigorous, ever curious, and committed to gaining the knowledge that will make the world a better place. And so, my dear Mills students, we wish for you that your education at Mills College will indeed furnish your minds, but we also wish for you that your education at Mills College will leave you humbly aware of how much we all do not know and how much you yourself still do not know, and that your humility will inspire you throughout your life to do something about what you yourself do not know, and even to do something to answer the great questions asked by the whole human race. Thank you very much.